Let me. Given, are you healthy? We've got allergies going on over here.
Healthy?
Yeah, are you feeling all right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a little cold, but I don't think it has to do with allergies.
Uh,
It's been
Let me.
raining a lot.
Yeah, you're sitting. All right. Omageddon Tasmania She Chitangamano Bisham Sapitamina Butale Spayam Pakaramayam Didati Swapantikam Pandeham Shikarushita Parakamalam Shikaru Vaishnam Shah Shihirupam Sagadisam Sahagara Railap Tambitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Prajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagara Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Pre Panchakalpatru Vishta Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patisanam Pavnevyo Vaishnavevyo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so thank you all for being here. um, Today we're doing Canto 2, Chapter 4, and today we're starting from text 8. This chapter titled The Process of Creation. Nuna Bhagavato Brahman Hare Rabhuta Karmana Dhruvibayam Avivati Kavi Vishapichestam. Translation. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable, because even great endeavors by learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them. Purport. The acts of the Supreme Lord in the creation of just this one universe appear inconceivably wonderful, and there are inconceivable universes, and all of them aggregated together are known as the created material world. And this part of his creation is only a fractional portion of the complete creation. The material world stands as a part only, a kamshina shito jagya. Supposing that the material world is a display of one part of his energy, the remaining three parts consist of the Vaikuntha Jagat, or spiritual world, described in Bhagavad Gita as Madhyama or Sanatana Dhamma, or the eternal world. We have marked in the previous verse that he creates and again winds up the creation. This action is applicable only in the material world, because the other greater part of his creation, namely the Vaikuntha world, is neither created nor annihilated. Otherwise, the Vaikuntha Dham would not have been called eternal. The Lord exists with his Dham, or in other words, with his eternal name, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality, which are all a display of his different energies and expansions. The Lord is called Anandi, or having no creator, and Adi, or the origin of all. We think in our own imperfect way that the Lord is also created, but the Vedanta informs us that he is not created. Rather, everything else is created by him. Therefore, therefore, for the common man, these are all very wonderful matters for consideration. Even for great scholars, they are inconceivable, and thus such scholars present theories contradictory to one another, even for the insignificant part of his creation. This particular universe, they have no complete information as to how far this limited space extends, or how many stars and planets are there, or the different conditions of these innumerable planets. Modern scientists have insignificant knowledge insufficient knowledge of all this. Some of them assert that there are 100 million planets scattered all over space. In a news release from Moscow, dated February 21st, 1960, the following piece of knowledge was relayed. Russia's well-known professor of astronomy, Boris Vorontsov Limonov, said, there must be an infinite number of planets in the universe inhabited by beings endowed with reason. It could be that life similar to that on Earth flourishes on such planets. Doctor of Chemistry Nikolai Zorov, covering the problem of atmosphere on other planets, pointed out that the organism of a Martian, for instance, could very well adapt itself to normal existence with a robotic temperature. He said he felt that the gaseous composition of the Martian atmosphere was quite suitable to sustain life of beings which have become adapted to it. The adaptability of an organism to different varieties of planets is described in the Brahma Samhita as Vibhuti Vimam. Each and every one of the innumerable planets within this universe is endowed with a particular type of atmosphere, and living beings there are more perfectly advanced in science and psychology because of better atmosphere. Vibhuti means specific powers, and Bimam means very good. Scientists who are attempting to explore outer space and are trying to reach other planets by mechanical arrangements must know for certain that organisms adapted to the atmosphere of Earth cannot exist in the atmospheres of other planets. Easy journey to other planets. One has to prepare himself to be transferred to a different planet after being relieved of the present body, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:25. Yanti deva vrate van pintran yati pitra vrata bhutani yatri bhutejya yati yajino pimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Maharaj Parikshit's statement regarding the workings of the creative energy of the Lord discloses that he knew everything of the process of creation. Why then did he ask Shukadeva Goswami for such information? Maharaj Parikshit, being a great emperor, a descendant of the Pandavas, and a great devotee of the Lord, was quite able to know considerably about the creation of the world, but that much knowledge was not sufficient. That much knowledge was not sufficient. He said, therefore, that even greatly learned scholars fail to know about that, even after great efforts. The Lord is unlimited, and his activities are also unfathomed. With a limited source of knowledge and within perfect senses, any living being up to the standard of Brahmaji, the highest perfect living being within the universe, can never imagine knowing about the unlimited. We can know something of the unlimited when it is explained by the unlimited, as has been done by the Lord himself in the unique statements of Bhagavad Gita. And it can also be known to some extent from realized souls like Shukadeva Goswami, who learned it from Vyasadeva, a disciple of Narada, and thus the perfect knowledge can descend by chain of disciplic succession, and not only by any form of experimental knowledge, old or modern. All right. So translation again after that after that very long report, but very nice report. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable, because even great endeavors by any learned scholars still have proved still have sufficient for understanding them. Have you guys seen, perhaps on social media or on YouTube or even just on the news? I've seen it in all three places about this object that's coming towards Earth, and some people speculate that it might be an alien spaceship. Given that you've seen it,
Yeah, 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 I've seen that.
when I first saw this, I thought that's fake news, because I saw it like on Facebook or whatever. I was like, okay, fake news. AI has really gotten out there. But then a news station was covering it. Like, yeah, there's this object coming towards Earth, and people don't know what it is. And so, I mean, there's some speculations, and it gets really out there. Um, and some people are speculating that it's life from another planet that's coming towards this Earth. Although personally, I think if that's the case, we're all in trouble because that means they're more technologically advanced than we are. But but anyway, the reason why I'm saying that or bringing that up is just because this verse is talking about the creation process, and Shukadeva Goswami is mentioning how that even great learned scholars, the understanding of this has still been insufficient. And for many years, uh, also, scientists did not even know what was at the bottom of the Mariana Trench in the ocean, which is the deepest part of the ocean. It says you go down there and it starts to it will completely destroy bone because the pressure is so intense. It'll flatten metal, and submarines will just kind of like explode. So there hasn't been much exploration of this area, and then recently they've been able to build some stuff that's been able to explore it a little bit, and they've found life down there, like fish that kind of glow because it's very dark, species that we never seen, and this different sediment down there, filled with natural resources that power our laptops and cell phones, like magnesium and cobalt and whatever else they use for batteries. I'm not like an expert, but like that type of stuff. And because they've found these natural resources, of course, now people want to, dig that up. But um, there's so much that's unknown about this area that people are skeptical to let businesses and whatever just go down there and start digging. Plus, it's extremely hard to get down there. But one of the things that I found, the most interesting about this is that the pressure is so great down there, but even life exists down there. And so when we hear about other planets, some people think there can be life on there can't be life on other planets because we don't see the same amount of oxygen or the same amount of things that we would need for us to survive. But what I appreciate too about the Bhagavatam is it has an answer for that, and it's that there's different types of bodies, different types of bodies. They need different things for survival. So Prabhupada would say, like, for to live on the sun, you have to have kind of like a sun body, and to live on whatever planet, so forth. You have a particular type of body for that, and so we can see that even as we're hearing about this stuff, and we're gonna get into like the really far out aspects of creation, things that we can't see with our own eyes that might be a little bit more difficult to understand. But what we can also relate it to is that even on this planet, there are many things that we can't understand. We don't know how it's happening, and this is because, in one sense, Krishna is inconceivable. And like Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, our senses are limited. And one of the questions that often comes up for me when I study these things, or I just think about the creation in general. Because last night I was reading Mahabharata, which Maharaj is always telling us read Mahabharata. So last night I was reading Mahabharata, and there was one story in there about the 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 Garbhadakshaya Ocean, where Lord Vishnu is situated on. And I was trying to picture in my mind, there's an ocean of milk, an ocean of salt water, an ocean of liquor. And I was thinking like, how is this all situated? Like I can't fathom it in my mind. Like I need like a 3D image sometimes to be able to understand where all these different personalities are going. I've looked. I don't know if a very good one exists that can explain that's very accurate. So if you guys know, please let me know. But but no, just hearing about all these things really makes me think of the inconceivable nature of the universe. But at the same time, I'm understanding that there's even things on this planet that I can't quite fathom or can't quite understand. So with that said, I'll open it up here if you guys have any comments or anything you would like to add to that.
Uh, Sorry, I'm not feeling too well today.
Oh,
I I
it's
really
okay.
I really don't have too much. I don't think I have anything to add to that. It's just um, it, everything is there, and I give Govinda a chance to speak.
I'm sorry, you you're not feeling so well today.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
uh, yeah, I think you were bringing up. Sorry, I mean, we're outside and this Shanti just like slipped a little bit, and so I had to bring her back inside. Um, but let's see, talking about creation and all the things that I think that was kind of like mostly what stuck with me from what we've already discussed is creation and how on Earth there's a lot of things even here that we don't know how um we haven't even discovered everything that's here on Earth, and so how can we even start to think about what's on the other planets or what's in space? I missed the part of the Garbhodaka ocean though. I don't know what you said about that one.
Yeah, there was this past time where like two personalities they were like going over this ocean to like get to like another place. And I was thinking because it reminded me of something I read in Krishna book about how Prabhupada mentions there's an ocean of milk, an ocean of like salt, an ocean of liquor. And I'm thinking like where are all these, like how is this all situated? Like I was trying to picture it in my mind, like the universe and stuff like that. And is there a good 3D? Is there like a really good 3D model that can really show this, or is it just like beyond our comprehension? I know the the Vedic Planetarium Temple in Mayapur, like they're attempting that. I don't know like how, like what exactly they're going to show. But anyway, I brought that up because it just shows how supposedly there's like other, like all these other things that we can't fathom.
Hmm.
And when I'm reading, I'm trying to picture it in my head, but I'm like, okay, is this like up or is this down or is this
Yeah.
I'm very visual like that. And even like going, because we haven't really gotten to like the details of creation yet so much, but even when we get there, even when I'm reading through that, I'm trying to picture it in my mind, and still there's like part of me that can't fathom it or completely understand what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I haven't even got there yet. I think even just a little bit that we touched upon in one of the earlier chapters. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did touch upon a little bit of it. Um, or maybe, or I think what I'm remembering is when we were talking about how Krishna's belt or from his nails come the animals, like come the sharp nailed animals. I remember there was a whole section that we read together where it was talking about how all these different um, forms of life are coming from different parts of Krishna's body.
Yeah, was that the universal form?
Oh, it might have been. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
the
so.
universal.
Yeah, okay. Um,
Yeah. And then later we're gonna get into like how like Brahma actually like engineered things.
okay. I'm
Yeah.
excited for the confusion, for the bewilderment.
But it's
Uh,
humbling. It's humbling in so many like it's so many because like you read these things and sometimes I'm thinking like well not so much now but like before I would think like did this really like happen? Is this
yeah.
really going? But if you think about like even just things on Earth, people are constantly changing their ideas of like what this is or understanding of that. Just like maybe like 200 or 300 years ago, people didn't know that germs cause disease.
Mm.
They thought it was
Yeah,
like so there were some groups of people that thought it was like demons or you were just something like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
and uh and then they used to like bloodlet people because they thought there was something wrong with like the bloods. So there's like and this was like top tier science back two three
Mm.
hundred years ago. So there's all these things that are constantly changing. So I keep that in mind, when I'm hearing about the creation. How there's
Well, this is kind of tying in with like a common thread. I don't know if you all experience this too, but like at least in my Krishna consciousness, it seems that, or in my like, yeah, my Krishna consciousness journey, that there's certain like topics or certain themes that come about, and they start, and it's like, I guess Krishna or Paramatma, kind of highlighting them for me in different experiences. Like it's not just like in one place, but it's like in different areas. Like as I'm going about my day, it comes up like this theme comes up again, or this topic comes up again and then again. Um, and so for me right now, with the theme that's circulating is about civilization. I'm reading Prabhupada's book, Civilization and Transcendence, I think is what it's called. It's one of his smaller books. And so it's a question and answer book. I'm not sure where the lecture was happening or what the context of it is. It doesn't explain, but it's Pushta Krishna Prabhu. He's asking Srila Prabhupada uh, all these questions that they're coming from. I don't know who they're coming from. It seems like they're coming from like Indian people, or I'm not sure, but and so the last thing that I was reading about yesterday was talking about samskaras, and if it's necessary for samskaras to be revived, like these processes of like the gar Srila Prabhupada gave a word, it was like desha. There's like ten purificatory processes.
yeah,
And
they even have like a book, like the Samskara book. I don't
oh,
know
okay.
who put it out, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's like a ton of them.
Okay, yeah. And Prabhupada's basic answer was no need to really, I mean, like as far as necessary, follow what you can, but really the main thing is the chanting of Hare Krishna, and that fulfills all these samskaras and purificatory processes, because in the current age we can't follow these 10 processes. It's just not really possible. Um, so that from the discussion that we're talking about now, that was making me think about that of how we like you're saying in Mahabharata, and then we can read like Ramayana, and then even in I guess the Srimad Bhagavatam, reading about Prahlad Maharaj and how different life was in the previous ages, the previous yugas, like Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga, how more advanced the consciousness was, how more advanced the civilization was, how there's descriptions of individuals even being able to communicate with demigods or fly. There's yeah, like these I haven't even got to the point yet, but in Sadaputa Prabhu's book about alien identities, it draws the parallels between descriptions of flying aircraft from the Mahabharata or the Vedas, and also with alien UFOs, which kind of ties into what we're talking about a little bit because we brought up the UFO on Facebook and all that. And so my point being that how the technology, the consciousness, civilization was so advanced in the previous ages, and just seeing it's confusing for me how we could be living on that kind of a space, and then to kind of look at it and see where we are now, or look at it and like you were saying, how just 200 years ago in 1800s, how people thought didn't even know what germs were or that germs were bad. So how can the degradation be that that severe to where I'm sure back in the 2 million, 3 million years ago, they understood germs, they understood medicine better than we understand it now, of what things to put in our body for what illnesses, rather than just like when we get sick. Now modern medicine is like when you get sick, just cut it off, just cut it out. That's like surgery. Whereby before medicine was actually you didn't have to cut anything out. You just prop, digesting the proper combination of natural ingredients or remedies can help you, or even mantras. Just chanting mantras can heal illnesses. And so now it's like well, how far away we've fallen from that. It just seems so like bewildering how how much of a difference there is with life.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I've thought the same thing. Wow, like how far mainstream society has fallen off. But just like with my different studies of history, there have been these different historical events in which, like things have been destroyed that have set people back. Like,
Oh, like
I
the
remember when,
library or
yeah, like that was the Library of Alexandria, Alexandria that burned. I can't remember what year that happened, but it had so much information in it, and then it like burned down, and then because there were no computers or like external hardware, like all that knowledge was lost. And then, I mean, there even I can't remember if I had told you guys this last week or 2 weeks ago, but I was listening to this interview with this guy that was in the Amazon with all these tribes. And when he went there, he was staying in the Amazon. He was mentioning that they were often getting like skin infections and things because they weren't used to the climate, and um they had a hard time lighting fire even with matches and things like this. But there are these tribes there that they're able to like light fire. They don't know how they're able to do it. They don't know how these people are able to like avoid infections. He said they have like a medical knowledge and things like this that we don't have. And if you think about it too, as society has shifted from more natural like based medicine and knowledge of the earth and herbs and things like that to what is that system that we're allopathic, I think it's called. Yeah.
yeah, I think so.
So people stop studying like the previous way, and then that knowledge gets lost. And just like if I think about my grandparents' generation, my grandmother used to know how to like can things to like preserve it really well, and she can make all these different things. I don't have that knowledge. I don't have that knowledge of like natural preserving because it wasn't passed down to me. So um I can see, in some ways how things can be lost as people move to another system, or different groups get conquered by this tribe or that tribe, and things just get forgotten. And but there's still these places on the earth that people have this knowledge that we don't have in mainstream society. But our society as a whole, it's not, especially with science. They want to look at things one particular way, and if it doesn't fit their paradigm, then they don't want to research it, at least publicly. So we're kind of stuck in that place. But we do know, at least, like, it goes back to just exploring the world. There's different groups. They still have knowledge that even us, we don't have, because we're living on a different system. And then also that's reminded me of something that's brought up in this report, where Prabhupada was talking about he mentioned that news story, and he said, see, uh, he's talking, it was after, he was talking about the different bodies, and how, like, the body, like, like the bodies of other living entities can exist on like other planets. And it made me think of another story that I saw a few weeks ago about this girl that's preparing to go to Mars. Like, she's in her 20s and she's preparing to go to Mars. And, like, in her mission, she's never gonna come back to Earth. Like, that's her thing. But if we look from Bhagavatam, we can see that, okay, even if she like makes it, she doesn't have the body to be able to survive in that atmosphere, or the knowledge. So, um, it or even the ability to be able to, like, know what's going on there. So it all goes back to what it says at the end of this purport, that one of the things is that our senses are limited. We we can only see things through this set of eyes, this set of ears, and there's so much that we don't have access to. But yet we're still trying, as if we can actually understand everything. And that's the thing, is that there are some things that are just inconceivable in life. And that's a humbling feeling for me, to know that, oh wow, there's still things that I can't wrap my head around.
Hmm. Yeah, I think having that experience of mm, wrapping my head around things, I feel like that's definitely coming as I'm dive into the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it goes into all these different areas of knowledge and descriptions of things that are just like we've been talking about the fifth canto. I think we've been mentioning that, and how uh there's descriptions in there that are just so, that can be like, what? So you just scratch your head about, "Ooh." I haven't read it. I just, this is what I've been hearing. So I guess in preparation for when I get there. But one thing, let's see. Oh, that was yeah, I think humbling though, that's a good word to use, because it is that it does take humility to accept what we can't understand, and have that um have that uh shraddha, like that faith of still accepting it, even though we can't fully wrap our heads around it. But because of experiences that we have understood, or that we have experienced, it helps us to accept things that maybe we can't understand yet, at least accept them, at least in principle or artificially, and then through practice it comes to be, from turns from jnana to vijnana, to turns to realize, where we actually understand it, really understand these things that we once didn't understand. Um, One thing that I was thinking about here is just where Srila Prabhupada was talking about Maharaj Parikshit, being a great emperor, a descendant of the Pandavas, and a great devotee of Lord Krishna, was quite able to know considerably about the creation of the world, but that much knowledge was not sufficient. So kind of how what we've been touching upon with past civilizations and past previous areas and previous knowledge. It just made me think of what kind of training there was there, especially for someone like Maharaj Parikshit. Um, in modern times, we have uh, we have that example of, you think of like kings or queens in these European countries like France or wherever, and they would have their children, like the prince and these princesses, they would have the top-notch teachers from wherever in the world they needed to get them from. They had the money and the means to bring these teachers bring over to teach their children, the princesses, these princes. Um, and so they were getting like the highest, the best quality education that they could get. And so, but if you think of like Maharaj Parikshit, um, so these kings and queens, they're giving their children the highest knowledge, but it's material, so it doesn't really serve uh, that that long that long purpose. What is the word? There's just two words. There's Shreyas and Preyas. Do you know which one is
Right.
which?
Shreyas and Prayas. Uh, it's escaping me at the moment, but
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna think of it after we end this
Yeah,
class.
yeah, okay. Okay. That's good. That's for me to look up. I always have that, and I never make the point to like which one is what. But how these kings and these queens had these top quality teachers coming, but it's like material. So whatever knowledge they're learning, it's similar to like Prahlad Maharaj when he was in school with his friends. They're getting taught by this. They're getting taught all these like about material, about like military and economics and business, like all these things uh, that might serve you in this life, but in the overall scheme, they don't help you in the grand scheme of things. But Maharaj Parikshit being a devotee, I just can't imagine the kind of education he was receiving, the kind of training he was receiving. It's just it's incredible to think about what level of consciousness you get to have when you're surrounded by just this purity and by Krishna's devotees. You're just surrounded by them, and you're just growing up with them, imbibing this knowledge to you. I think Srila Prabhupada has established like the next generation of that. I always kind of come back to that because I feel like I'm fortunate enough to be able to see it firsthand of being in Alachua, and you have third generations now, and I guess maybe in some years we have like fourth generation devotees. Just crazy to think about. But
Alachua's good Hare Krishna experiment.
yeah, yeah, I forget someone just yeah, I just heard that from someone that they're saying that uh oh yeah, I remember it, that he said that his father um he was saying that the whole Krishna consciousness movement is basically like just it's still an experiment because it's so new in the West, and so we're still learning like how to apply these principles because of how far away we are from it. It's a process for us to really learn like what principles to apply, how to apply them, how to live our life, but it's nice to see the progression and the evolution of West meets East, and just the combination of both in such a beautiful Krishna conscious way. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and what you're bringing up. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I think that was kind of wrapping up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But no, I was what you're bringing up about the knowledge that like Maharaj Parikshit learned, and then also about like how we were speaking about how Alachua was like this experiment and the Hare Krishna movement is new, and that's also something to consider because Maharaj Parikshit in the past, with his education, he learned all this. They had a firm grasp on this because it had been passed down. But in our situation, you know, we got the Bhagavatam maybe 50 years ago, and we're still learning and still discovering, and which is why they have the what is that, the Bhaktivedanta Institute. That's their job, is to like research all this and put it all together. And so I think I also like part of me has hope that as time goes on, we'll be able to understand this more and more and explain it in a more simple way so that we can also, like pass this knowledge on to the next generations because it would be amazing to have a complete like as complete as we can, like because of course still like going back to like the inconceivable aspects of this, um, but a more like a more more of an understanding of the process of creation of the world and of how things work and to be able to have very good models to show how things are done, kind of like they do in school, where you have that model of like the sun and all the plants, like that's how they
Yeah,
teach us in like
yeah.
first grade, second grade, third grade. And even that changes because when I learned Pluto was a planet, and now
Oh,
Pluto's not a planet. We had nine when I learned it. But like just getting onto that, like I'm having this like hope that like as we're creating more generations of devotees, that our understanding will also grow, and with that understanding our faith can also grow. So like as we start to understand more things and our faith grows, then that also helps us to understand the things that we can't quite grasp yet. And of course, like I said before, you'll never be able to fully grasp everything. But as one goes deeper and deeper into Krishna consciousness, Krishna can reveal more and more things that, we have the ability to understand. But of course, that's also the beauty of it, is that it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and you never really get to the end of it. But that's the great thing about it, because then you never get bored. There's always another layer, a deeper layer to uncover. So that's really my hope for the future. And I mean it's kind of all happening right there in that Alachua Gainesville area because I think the Bhaktivedanta Institute, I think their headquarters is in Gainesville now. So really
yeah.
that's where they're studying all these things and trying to understand all these things and trying to put it all together. So even if we're looking at it now and like some of these verses and purports maybe we don't fully understand, like there are people that are doing work out there to make this more accessible and to make this more understandable to us.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, for sure. One thing that you're making me think about with the next generation is uh is how, yeah, their level of understanding and their consciousness is at such a high level that they're like the realizations that like a fourth generation or third generation devotee can have is, it can be like, I mean, I don't want to make comparisons, but I'm just saying it can be so deep that even someone who's been practicing for some time, they can learn, like someone can still learn from this 10-year-old or this 14-year-old because of how deep their consciousness is. And it made me think of, I mean, what we're reading now with Shukadeva Goswami, and I think he's 16 years old, and he comes to this assembly of the most, like the highest Brahminical sages that you could imagine. They're all assembled here in front of Maharaj Parikshit. And then a 16-year-old boy, he comes and they all stand up. Everyone stands up to pay their respects to someone who's half or like less than half or like more than half their age, or like, yeah, he was like 40, 50 years younger than they are. And it doesn't matter. They don't, I guess there was like a doubt or maybe this thing in me that was thinking, like, was that artificial? Were these sages, were they just kind of being respectful, or what, like, or was that a real, like, deep, actual understanding that this is that when they saw Sukadeva Goswami, this is actually someone more realized than myself, or this is someone who, like, was that real, or was it just this artificial kind of thing? And I think through this conversation now, it's helping me to understand that that's a real it's a real thing that it doesn't the age and yeah, like with Prahlad Maharaj, he's 5 years old. And so again, just that further emphasis on the age not really having anything to do with our level of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I remember when I was in New Vrindavan for a kirtan festival, and this 12-year-old girl started singing, and she she hadn't really like led before, but when she started leading kirtan, people were just like, "Whoa," like she really knows, she really knows this stuff, and so they started letting her sing. They started letting her sing more and more. So I think it's kind of like that, like um, people people see someone and they're like, oh wow, they're really advanced. They really know this. So they give them the opportunity. And Prabhupada said too, with an acharya, they're self-evident. And so with someone like Shukadeva Goswami, people kind of just knew, okay, he's very advanced. But
Mm.
this is actually bringing up a question for me. I need to write this down. It's like I said, Namananath Maharaj. Um, it because we're talking about like the Vedic civilization and the creation and things like that, and you had mentioned the what was that book you said you were reading, Transcendence,
Yeah,
civilization,
civilization and transcendence.
Transcendence, and how Prabhupada said like the different samskaras, they're not so necessary for this age. Um, but at the same time, Christian consciousness has this culture behind it. Like we have our own ideas of creation. There's these some scars and things like this. And Prabhupada wanted to establish some varnashram. I do know
Mm,
that, like in the
mm,
beginning, and especially like towards the end of his manifest pastimes. So I need to, if Maharaj is open to it, I would like to hear more of his um, thoughts on what Prabhupada meant by establishing a Varnashram society and what he thinks that that's supposed to like look like. Because at the same time, we hear that Prabhupada wanted that, but at the same time, like these different samskars and things aren't necessary. So like, how far do we go? How do we do that? You
hmm.
understand my point?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that comes to my mind is just like time, place, and circumstance. And so if imagine, you've got these brand new Western devotees who are just learning about the Maha Mantra, and then they're coming to you about these doubts of like, do we need to learn all these things? I guess my mind, it makes me think of like Prabhupada's perspective is like basically like not right now. Like right now you don't need to like I mean that's just what I'm thinking is that like that was his whole
Right.
mission. But I would love to hear what my Guru Maharaj has to say about that. Because it's like it's a whole discussion. It's a whole huge uh topic of like what that's supposed to look like and how to establish that. Uh, yeah, I don't know if actually yeah, I don't know if we've ever gone too in detail with that with him. So that'd be nice to hear it'd be very nice to hear his perspective on that.
Yeah, because you're in some ways that Prabhupada's like, oh, this is the second half of my mission, and
Mm-hmm.
I do know just by being around this movement that different like leaders have different ideas of like
Mm,
what our direction is and how where we're supposed to be going. And because I said reading the books, you see that there's this whole culture behind Krishna consciousness and established Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, things like this. So, um, what is our and like I said, our own ideas for creation. We have our own system of knowledge. So what actually did Prabhupada want us to do? Because we do know
yeah.
that he was gonna go to Gita Nagari to like show us how to do this.
Mm,
And then he ended up going back to Vrindavan where he ultimately left. So
mm-hmm.
anyway, as just it's something I'm interested in as we dive deeper into Shima Bhagavatam and just like the culture behind like what's going on. Anyway,
No,
something
yeah,
that
for
comes up.
sure. Yeah, yeah. I guess, yeah, it just makes me think maybe in like 10 generations or something, we'll be at a place where it's like these things are really manifesting. But yeah, who knows? Um, it's like like we've kind of been saying, it's still really early. It's still really young movement that we have. But the next verse it doesn't have a purport, so maybe we can read the verse and then we can
Oh
start on
yeah.
the
Oh my
next one.
gosh. Okay. Yeah. It's getting late.
Yeah.
Sorry. You can chime in at any time just because you weren't feeling well. I didn't want to put you on the spot.
I just wanted to say that it would be a very good idea to put this question into writing in the chat because I did ask Guru Dev if he would give a class next week, and he said, "Well, surely if there will be people in attendance." And so I think we need to put another poll in the chat, maybe on Monday after Radhastami, put a poll in the chat and submit the questions. I submitted my question and I mentioned your question from last week, Mother Lavanga, but I may not have worded your question correctly. It would be much better if it came from you,
All
and
right.
that we can indeed get him to talk about these subjects if we actually put the question into writing in the chat, and so I look forward to that. And I agree. The next verse, if you wanted to put it in, it's very short and with no purport, although there is much food for thought in it. But you can go ahead and read it if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Um. यथा गुणस्तु प्रकृतेर्युगपत् कर्मसोऽपि वा बिभर्ति बोरिसस्त्वा त्वा त्वैका कुर्वन् कर्माणि जन्मभिः. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, whether he whether he alone acts with the modes of material nature or simultaneously expands in many forms, or expands consecutively to direct the modes of nature. Okay, well that is a lot. But the next and then the next verse after that has a purport, but it is very long, like the one we had today. So
Yeah.
that also might take up the whole class next week.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, this verse speaks to my heart because, of course, I come from a background in Judaism, and the whole point of Judaism is that God is one, which basically, to me, would say that all the representations of God are indeed representations of God, whether they're in our religion or in other religions. And God takes uh, uh, takes many different roles according to our needs and according to the cultures that are following, so I think that's very important to remember because we can be very quick to condemn, the religious ideas of other cultures,
Right.
uh, forgetting about the fact that it is indeed the same God, just seen through different eyes, right, in different
Yeah.
cultures. So, this is very important for us to remember as devotees because we are supposed to be very welcoming in nature. And as soon as we start insulting the views of other people in other cultures without, understanding that their point of view comes from where it is they come from, and not everybody is from India or is following, the Krishna consciousness movement in the United States, but everyone who indeed believes in God is a true devotee of the Lord.
Right, exactly. And what you're mentioning, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes something about that when he's talking about different religions. It's a whole beautiful thing, but I don't remember the whole thing off the top of my head. But he was saying, like when I see, this God being worshipped in another way, I know it is also my God, but in a form that I don't quite understand. But, but he was, having, like this, it was a whole like thing of like really great respect for other different spiritual paths. I'll look that up, but what you're saying is exactly what he basically said. So it's very beautiful.
Thank you.
And with that, I got 11 o'clock here. So I think it's time for us to end. I'll submit uh, my questions to Maharaj. Um, Tomorrow's probably tomorrow. And you said we can put a poll up and see when he'll be able to give a class. But
Well, I asked him to give the class next week, and he said, well, he would if we could assure him that there will be devotees in attendance. So we need to put the poll in order to be sure that we three and the others who sometimes attend can actually attend. So,
right, okay, all right. Well, thank you all for coming. Shima Bhagavatam Ki. Do you have any other announcements, Muna?
no, I don't have any announcements, although I am about to have a short meeting with Maharaj about the Facebook page, and either one of you would be welcome to attend the meeting.
Okay, I would love to, but I don't think is I have had a relative that passed away, and so I'm taking care of some legal issues right now. Otherwise, I would stay.
I
But
see. I was just at the funeral of my ex-husband yesterday, so I know all the stuff that is involved in that process. Yeah.
oh,
Govinda, can you attend?
No, unfortunately, I can't attend either. Yeah, usually it's really helpful if I have like some notice, and then that way I can kind of plan accordingly.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Hare Krishna to both of you, and
yeah,
I'll see you both next week. And I hope you feel better, Yamuna.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
Jai. And
Jai.
Shri Maharaj
Raghunath
Ki Jai.
Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you. Haribol.